couple of years back, Total War Arena was first announced, and I'm sure it's gone through a lot of sort of work getting here, because now we're sort of finally being led into it. A lot of people have gotten keys, starting finally to play this sort of new take on the Total War series. You're doing a lot of different takes on the Total War series right now, but can you tell us, like, the brief pitch? What is Total War Arena?
So Arena is a 10v10 online multiplayer battle game, and each player selects a commander and 3 units to take into battle, and it's about team play. There are like 60 units on the battlefield at once, and it's about learning how to work with your teammates, find out like a good cohesion between different types of units and their abilities, and utilizing that on the battlefield.
It sounds like a very different kind of Total War, because we're used to sort of thousands and thousands of troops that you're not in direct control over in that sense. Now it's a little bit more sort of focused. What's the reason for that? Is that it's multiplayer in 10v10, that it would just get too messy?
Well, I mean, we tried a lot of things when we were developing it. We tried 5 units each, 2 units. We wanted to see what worked. But we feel like the 3 units is just right. It really allows you to concentrate a lot on the micromanagement of the units. Unlike other Total Wars, none of their actions are automated. They won't auto-fire or charge or anything like that. It's all up to the player to activate those different abilities, and so it's really you're able to focus on the micromanagement of your 3 units while also being part of a much larger army. So communication is also really key to really utilizing what you've got and utilizing the battlefield to outflank your enemy.
I can imagine that, and sort of being able to shift tactics on the fly with 10 different voices, 10 different people. It's kind of takes sort of a hierarchy among them almost to sort of figure things out.
Yeah, so one of the things that we've been looking at is a sort of a team commander, someone who can dish out sort of guidance and orders to the rest of the players on the team, and we've been sort of starting to add in tools for them to use, like markers on different units, and everyone, you can paint on the map and everyone will see that, and so that's one of the things that fans were really kind of asking about. It's like, oh, it'd be really cool if we can have sort of a general of the army to coordinate it, and yeah, so that's something that we're developing, and going with feedback with the players is really important. It's really sort of drives a lot of what we do. So it's as much for them as it is for us. Like the game is a living, breathing sort of thing that is evolving, and everything that the players sort of tell us and the metrics tell us, it really kind of feeds back into what we work on next and how we develop the game.
And I also suppose, of course, because you're facing another human team, it's not like you put up this grand tactic and it's just going to play out that way. You got to change all the time anyway. So the greatest plans can just get crushed in a second. So you have to adapt all the time. So maybe it's sort of makes sense not to. But of course, you want to sort of encourage players who take more different approaches and not just storm right ahead in sort of face-to-face combat.
Absolutely. I mean, you'll find, like, playing the game, if you on your own just kind of go off on over that, you'll get pounced on by the enemy team. So it really is important to maneuver around the map as a team, and players can organize between them, like into sort of groups within the 10v10. Like this group of 3 players will take their units through this section of the map, and we'll take through this section of the map, and we'll do a flanking maneuver onto the enemy base at the end. And that's something that we've really seen, that when players have a plan and they stick to it, it's really effective.
Interesting. And of course, I briefly mentioned that it's been quite a long journey with this game. You've sort of taken your time, making sure you get things right, and you've been starting to let in more players now. So what's that road been like, and sort of where are you at right now with the game?
So we're currently in closed alpha, and we're planning to go into closed beta by the end of the year. And we've been working on the game for around 2 years now. And a lot of like the big multiplayer developers within the studio have really kind of poured their heart into this game, and so for the future, we're open beta next year sometime. We don't know yet, because we're listening to the players. We're seeing where the game is at, and when we feel it's ready to go to the next phase, that's when we'll do it. We won't. We don't necessarily need to rush things. We want to make sure that we've, at the moment, got the core gameplay down, that it's fun to play, and both Total War fans, who are quite hardcore players, really, a lot of them, they're the ones that we have mostly in at the moment, but we're also very much making it more accessible to a wider range of people, and that sort of comes across like I mean, with other Total Wars, it can be sometimes kind of scary for a lot of people to have to manage an entire army of units. So being able to focus on your units, and not necessarily, like, if you make a mistake, you're not necessarily bringing the team down or anything like that. So yeah, it's been a really interesting journey, and we hope to continue building and developing for years to come. And we've got lots of ideas and suggestions of new features, and we're going to be adding new maps, new units, new factions. We're currently working on the Barbarian faction to add in as well. So we currently have Romans and Greeks, and we wanted to make sure that, you know, they were well balanced and solid first before we started adding in the more factions, and we're starting to do that now. And what we're actually finding is with the Barbarians, we can fill the gaps in the balancing that are currently there with the Romans and Greeks. So yeah, we're constantly sort of looking at what's the next best thing to do. What does the game really need next? And there's lots of things we want to add in the future, and who knows?
Yeah. I understand the approach there is to sort of get the basics down, the mechanics down, get the game to where it is, and then sort of start populating it with more and more content over time.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's where, like, we've at the moment got a sort of planning to release a new map every sort of 1 to 2 months or so, and that might depend on the complexity of the maps and that sort of thing. And then there's a lot of scope for where we can go with it, and there's potential to bring in other eras as well. And that's something, again, that we've had a lot of feedback about and requests, like, oh, it'd be really cool if we can, you know, have samurai fighting a Roman legionaries, and then maybe sort of like more Eastern empires and Chinese units, perhaps. And
just because the title sort of implies that is something that you'll be able to do. So.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something we'd really love to do, and it's once we've got the core down, there's a lot of options we can explore. Even aliens. Well, maybe there's we still have to keep it sort of grounded in reality, and have there's a you know, it's still a degree of historical accuracy with the units and how they work, and what the commanders have access to, and especially also it's represented in the tech trees for the factions. So that's sort of like also how we approach the premium units and that sort of thing. Is the Romans, for example, they are historically a very infantry-heavy army faction, and they hired auxiliaries, mercenaries, to fill the gaps in their army for, like, bowmen, and in Arena we represent that they are like the extra premium units, and they're not necessarily more powerful or anything like that. They're just different. They're just giving you access to something else that you wouldn't necessarily have, to give you more options and more fun things to play with.
Very interesting. And we've already mentioned the road ahead. Of course, you can catch up on Total War Arena on the website. I think we had a giveaway with a lot of keys a couple of weeks ago, but you can continue to follow the development. And thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely, thank you.